On April 13th, 1970, at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Apollo 13 crew reported, "Houston, we have a problem." Today, however, we are not here to report, "Houston, we've had a problem." Rather, we, the BYU-Idaho Team 1, Viking Construction, are here to report, "Houston, we have a solution." The solution is thanks to a task assigned to us by True Homes. This is for a new home construction in Summerville, South Carolina, approximately 2,000 square feet. We're looking at this home, and what we are tasked to do is create a full, complete set of working drawings, create a detailed cost estimate, as well as to create a construction schedule. Now that we have an idea for the solution that we'll be presenting, let's introduce the team. I'm Jacob Kinville. I'm the team captain. I was also the lead scheduler, and I was also involved with the drafting.
I'm Michael Jones, and I was the lead drafter for the project.
My name is Clark Blaylock. I was the lead estimator, as well as I helped in the production of the schedule.
My name is Jonathan Gonzalez. I was the Revit content manager as well as a drafter.
I'm Justin Merrill. I was involved with the coordination between the schedule, the estimate, and the drafting.
So we're going to start by talking about the plans. First off, the plans were drafted in Revit. We created a structural and architectural model. This allowed us to help us in our drafting, as well as it helped us with our estimate, takeoffs, those type of things. We also tried to utilize Revit's design option feature. This allowed us to have one model, but able to switch between the two different design options, and that way we could work off one file. In total, we drafted 20 pages as a team, and we want to discuss some of the modifications that we made to the plans. First is the second floor, the stairwell to the bonus room. We pushed the stairwell back and created a small landing next to the door on the second floor. This allowed us to create a more efficient stairwell, as well as add extra space to the master bedroom closet underneath to be efficient that way. Some things that we also modified were some of the dimensions to the house. One of the things that we did was we changed the overall dimension so that it was divisible by 4 to help with our productivity and cost effectiveness for our sheathing. We also changed a few of the interior walls. For example, the wall between the master bedroom and the master sitting room, we shifted that a few inches over to the bedroom, so we didn't have an awkward gap that we'd have to cut drywall, extra mudding, and extra seam. So that way we'd be more efficient and it was more cost effective.
Okay, for the estimate, we tried to break it down by the different phases of construction, beginning with your pre-construction. You have your site work, your concrete, framing, your exterior and interior finishes, as well as your subcontractors that are involved in the project. And so for each phase, we separated it out by your material and your labor. And at the end of each phase, we included additional sections for the bonus room option. We divided that out by the material and labor as well. The prices we used came from local suppliers in Berkeley County, as well as we used the 2018 National Construction Estimator. We modified those prices based off the modification factor for Berkeley County. And in the production of our estimate, we coordinated that with our drawings and with our schedule. And so we pulled the drawings into Bluebeam, and from there I was able to scale the drawings, take measurements, and come up with my basic quantity takeoffs. And once I had my quantities and using the National Construction Estimator, I was able to come up with crew sizes and calculate the man hours for different phases of construction. And those man hours were then translated into our schedule. So everything was linked very nicely. We built formulas into our estimate that really helped in the coming up with the totals for our quantities. We included waste factors, and we also included the different specification items. For example, your lights are very specific on which make and model to use. So we were able to look those up, the exact model number, the exact price, and include those in the estimate. And at the end, we created summary sheets, and that gives you a nice overview of your project costs and where your money's going with each phase of construction. And overall, after profit and overhead, we came up with a total project cost of roughly $309,000.
For the schedule, we in your solution packets, there are two separate schedules. One is for the bonus room option, the other is for the standard floor option. Within those schedules, there are 6 sort of subcategories of the schedules. I'm just going to briefly run over those. The first one is the activities relationship report. This just shows what the parent activities are, what the child activities are, how they're related to each other and their general span. The next one after that is the project manager standard report. This standard report just is what we'll be giving to our project managers. It shows them, how this construction is going to flow. It shows the float to the construction, the durations, as well as those relationships. The project manager early start shows our best case scenario for the production of this home. Now this early start, we remove the float option from it. And so what that does is that helps us translate it over nicely into the subcontractor standard layout. The subcontractor standard layout doesn't have that float. That enables us to help encourage our subcontractors to go out and to complete the project on time, encouraging them to save time, save money. That way the home will be in the hands of the homeowners quicker, more effectively. After that, we have our critical path relationship. Our critical path chart is just a typical Gantt chart that describes how it's done and all that. It shows our critical relationships, the stages that need to be completed prior to construction being completed. Each of those activities include activities that have inspections in them. These inspections are obviously a key part of the activities. For instance, the placement of the concrete, it's FRIPS concrete, framing, rebar, inspection, pouring or placing and screeding the concrete. This allows time for us to be able to take a look at it and then continue on smoothly without any sort of major delays to our schedule. The final one is the owner milestone report. These are when we'll be reporting back to the owner as to, hey, guess what? Your framing's complete, it's inspected, it's good to go. Congrats. Do you want to check out your home? Do you want to walk through this frame structure? That gives them an opportunity to be more familiar with that space as they move on in. The schedule was created in Oracle Primavera 6. And overall, the schedule, we have it set out to be about 77 working days, translating to about roughly 110 days total, including weekends and holidays. It's scheduled to begin March 1st, 2019, to end June 18th, 2019, with the procurement starting in February 15th. That gives us time to get our permits and stuff with construction actually breaking ground on that March 1st. When you add the bonus room option, we add an extra 6 days to the total time, boosting it up to 83 working days, 118 calendar days, moving the end date from June 18th to June 26th with that as well.
So as Michael said before, we drew the floor plans and the 3D model using Revit, and we would look for the specific manufacturer items in their websites. And if we could not find that specific item, we would download one that could suit the specifications that we wanted and adapt it using Revit, the family's Revit, so that we can have the specifications that we needed for that specific item. After we had all the objects downloaded, we would add them to the floor plans and to the 3D model. We have to coordinate it so that as everyone was doing their draft and their part of the work, they would have the specific objects that they needed to. And we were able to organize it, and the outcome was that we finished the floor plans as well as the 3D model for the house.
In all aspects of construction, it seems to be faced with the task of coordinating efforts between different phases and different individuals that work within that project. And so each individual had access to Bluebeam Review 2018. And so we used a Bluebeam session in which we could go ahead and coordinate all the individual elements of this project between the PDF files that we were viewing from the specifications we were given for the problem. And we could go through and mark those. Also, as Clark mentioned, that we were able to use it in the estimate, going up and taking the plans that we actually drew, coordinating that, picking up our quantities there. And then if anything was ever astray, we could go back and check those because it was marked up and everybody had access to it. We also used Revit and LinkedIn models. So we had multiple people drawing different elements of this project. And as those individuals drew, we could bring those models together and link them together to present the full working drawings that you see before you. Thank you. We'll now open it up to questions.
Great presentation, guys. Just a couple quick questions on the plans. I just noticed on A1 and A1.1, just make sure we're consistent with like drop headers and things. So the drop header between master sitting and master bed on this one is 21, on this one is 22. So it's not going to go in line with your door header schedule. So just make sure the consistencies are there. Can you go over the stair placement for me, please?
So originally the plan showed that it was right up to the door, but when we modeled it in place, we saw that we would either have a gap at the top of the stairs or a gap at the bottom. We decided to push it back, so there would be a landing at the top, and that allowed for more space in the master closet underneath that it was going to go over. So we were trying to maximize space as well as cost.
Okay, because A1.1, it looks like it's kind of splits the garage wall. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what was the plan there to kind of slope the closet ceiling to make that work? Or?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Just one thing on the estimate on your excavation. Strip topsoil for $22 and rough grading for $90. You're not going to get them there for less than probably 200 because they've got to mobilize, they've got to load up their equipment. So just kind of keep that. It's got to be realistic as far as their travel time and setup and everything like that. So the hours itself may be correct, but like I said, just the initial move. Then a couple things on the schedule. Can you explain your float for me?
My float?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So the total float is very much what's happening so we have our critical path set up. And what happens is there's certain activities that are not critical that can, that sort of have that float. And that's primarily with the landscaping and whatnot. Those are the ones that typically have the most float, the most move around and stuff because, they can be completed when the time seems fit, So what's happening with that float is it's just sort of, we're constraining the total schedule between this float where we have this one critical item, perhaps it's the framing and then this other critical item, perhaps it's the stair framing or something along the lines of that. And there's these other objects that are able to float in between those. That gives the subcontractor to maybe if they do have a rainy day, they're able to come in on that day and it's in no rush. It's not impacting the schedule negatively, but we definitely encourage them to be there on that scheduled day rather than on one of the float days. Because if that day floats, all the other activities float back as well. Then everything's cascading and we're potentially pushing back the critical path, which puts us behind on the schedule.
Okay, so just be careful because I'm noticing install doors and windows, 8-day float, shingle roof, 5-day float, ceiling insulation, 5-day float. So they seem like more critical paths than non-critical.
Okay.
So just be careful on your non-critical. your non-critical or shelving and shower doors, things like that. But trying in a roof, that's going to stop somebody from continuing their job. So,
Right.
So just be careful on that. Landscaping inside, we're installing a month before closing. Just be careful because now it's your responsibility to manage it. And if it's dead, then you're replacing it. But I did like the homeowner walkthrough several days before closing to button things up. So that was very good. Thanks.
Cool.
So, by the way, I don't know if you heard me on the last presentation or you heard me yesterday going back and forth, but I've been talking about coordination and team coordination. May I say that your strategy for splitting up the work and the Revit drawings and all of those things was fantastic. It's overall what I see is, your details and who did all the details, the wall details and the sections and all of those.
It was split up between Michael, myself, Jonathan, and Justin.
Wow, I can't even believe it. Looks like somebody just worked their butt off, and that's amazing. Your sections and your wall sections are absolutely gorgeous. They are well noted. I know it's exactly what's going on, and I really want to commend you on the level of your sections and details. Really good. I like the way your notes going back and forth. Who did the graphics? Who did the graphics?
I was primarily in charge of the graphics.
Great job. What's beautiful is this comes off as a sketch. You converted it, into the sketch, but it's actually relatively accurate to the, I'm looking at the pigeon stoops and some other things going back and forth. You even have the beam in there. That's a level of detail, but it also adds a flair of creativity. Much appreciated. Sorry. I did have, who worked on the trusses and the sections and all of those things? The trusses and the truss sections?
It was kind of a group effort between me and Justin.
Great. Well, somebody picked up that this should be piggyback trusses, right? Excellent. Yeah, we can't transport these things at the height that they currently are, and piggyback is huge. It also makes a lot of things for scheduling and also temporary bracing, and there's a lot of implications of that. It's a huge element. So I want to give you kudos to that. The insulation between the laundry room and the master bedroom into the, adjacent to the great room, who added that?
This is me.
All right, great. Although it was not included or specified, great attention to detail will work great. That sound, the sound, acoustical sound will make a huge difference, although I don't know if you pull that off as an option, but it's a level of detail. It was great. The kitchen enlargements, who worked on the kitchen enlargements?
Again, I think that was me and Justin.
All right, great job again, because you're one of the few that actually put cabinet sizes and put a lot of information and detail on there. I think there was something about there was a master bedroom, bathroom shower that needed a little bit more, I think, just in general. But nice, you continued through, you worked really well as a team. And lastly, who added the lighting on the exterior elevations?
Can you say that again?
The lighting, the lights on the exterior, who added the exterior lights?
I think Jonathan found them, but I have.
Beautiful, thank you. That's coordination, it's attention to detail, thank you.
We're gonna pick on the designer yet. So, be very careful when you're on your exterior elevations and then with your inside sections. I found that your exterior window header count from 7.3 to 7 foot, be very consistent. They are 7 foot. So watch yourself on that. And on your page, your structural SO and SO1, you show two different thicknesses of the gravel base below the slab. As an estimator, I'm a bid the worst one, which might cost somebody money. So you always go to the worst scenario in case somebody says, oh, you bid the 6 inch, it's supposed to be 12. So be very consistent on that, because a guy's gonna bid the worst one he finds on there. On your estimates, I love the estimate. You guys are phenomenal on the detail and how it's broken down. I can find everything. But from page to page to page, put your school name, address, and the job name on every single page. I take these and I lay them all out. And now, if I look at somebody else's, I put them back together, I might have another team or somebody else mixed in. So be very consistent on following your names throughout that area all the way through. The real estate commissions, on your bonus, I love that, because on every option that we do, we put profit, overhead, and everything on each option, and you guys did it. Great job.
Very, very well put together presentation and package. Thank you for the coordination. That's something that we try to stress every year, is the coordination between plans, estimate, and schedule. And you guys seem to have done a really, really well job in doing that. In the estimate, that's you, Clark, right? So in the problem, there was a sewer connection fee of $6,300. Where in the estimate can I find that?
I believe the sewer connection fee should be under your pre-construction phase. That's going to be all of your utility hookups.
Okay,
And-
I'm not gonna. I tried to find it and I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So maybe after you can point this out to me, but I couldn't find that.
Okay.
So also, while I'm commending you for coordinating, there's one thing I found. One, right? Like between the plans and the estimate. So what is the exterior wall insulation rating that we're going to be using on this house?
I believe the exterior wall was R13.
Bingo.
Correct.
Good job. R13. In your wall section, there's details calling out R19. So those are little things that, if it's a 2x4 wall, you're not going to put R19 in there. It just won't fit. But we just need to button up those little things. But overall, very, very well done. Good job.
Thank you.
Once again, great job. But with a plan set this nice, I've got to dig deep and find stuff. So here I go. So you have unreferenced views on A1.1, right? If you're going to use the option tool in Revit, make sure you're using it and you're coordinating everything together. This was just something that was, you got it on the one, you checked to make sure the bonus room stairs were there, and then you moved on. You didn't check the rest of the sheet. That's, a lot of what we saw. Details, you start diving into the details. There's some things that are pointed to that aren't right. Have R13 and gable end truss, which doesn't need to be there. You've got R9 or R13 and the walls of a gable end truss. There's just some coordination things. Your overhangs are all different. There's 11 inch, 11 and a half, 12. They're all kind of just a little bit off, and your site plan needs a ton of work. The big blue blob doesn't tell me anything about how to box the slab, and I really need that. That's the most critical information to start the project. Plans, awesome, but just a few QC things, and I think you'd be there.
That's it.
That's it. Time.
Good job.
Yeah.